You deserved everything you got. This is a union city.
That is a Philadelphia tradition.
Seize the means of podcasting.
Oh, God, the boss has crushed us.
Let me tell you one thing else.
In oldie-timey times,
The pleasure of the flesh is in solidarity.
we will not raw dog reality for that one.
It's going to be wholly unprofessional.
The Scab Buster.
What have we become?
Keep together strong. Let that be your mantra.
What are we going to learn about today, Gabe?
So electricity exists.
There are some who would disagree with you.
Yes. But within the conceptual reality that electricity does indeed exist, we must also assume that sometimes we try and put that electricity into a specific container, usually called a battery.
Oh, okay.
And those batteries are made by people.
Interesting.
And in 1937, the people that made batteries in Philadelphia went on strike. And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Is this why our episodes are an hour and a half long nowadays?
Yeah. That's most of it.
Everything has to be explained.
Mm-hmm.
Everything must be explained. I hate people with brains. I hate learned people who want to educate others.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows what's going on.
All right. So there's some battery makers.
Yeah. So at the Electrical Storage and Battery Company.
Okay. Okay.
Which does still exist under a different name now. But in 1937, they had two plants in Philly. One was on Rising Sun and Adams Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of up in North Philly. I'm going through, because I also just over explaining everything. I went through the historical map of Philly to look at where all of these things were.
Of course you did, Gabe.
And both of these battery plants because there was another one at 19th and West Allegheny Avenue. But both of these battery plants were right next to bakeries. And like literally across the street from residential neighborhoods.
Oh,
making lead acid batteries. So
what year is this?
1937. Also, it was upsetting because you could see all of the even today you can see the silhouette of where all of the train tracks were.
Yeah.
And where all of the public transit used to be, but it's all gone now.
But it's all gone. No, we don't need public transport, Gabe.
No, it's fine.
Everybody has to have a Ford 3750.
Yeah.
So that, they don't need to see children or anything like that.
Yeah. But as part of the starting process for that motor and to run all the internal electronics, that car would also have a battery. And car batteries.
Very good. Very good. Pulling it around.
Car batteries were one of the main production things that got produced. I can speak English at Electrical Storage and Battery Company, which was founded in 1888 by William Whitmore Gibbs. So they also built batteries for electric boats and submarines.
Okay, this was... Oh, damn. All right.
Yeah, so that like... This is one of those companies that had their hand in everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they helped build, or one of their major contracts was with Electric Boat Company, which built submarines. Also, Electric Launch Company, which built PT boats during World War II.
Ooh, okay.
Then they also built larger batteries for like municipal electrical supplies or electrical companies. Because one of the problems you have is usage and power will fluctuate throughout the day. So you put in batteries into the system so that you can store energy and release it as needed.
Mm-hmm.
And they would build giant batteries for that. And then they also built electric car batteries back when we had actually a lot of electric cars in the 1920s.
Yes.
Before somehow before Elon Musk personally.
I was about to
them,
say, I don't think so. This history doesn't add up, Gabe.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is first, center, and end of the topic when it comes to electric cars. He created the electric cars. He created the rockets that go up.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's immortal, so that's how that happened.
I would have taken nothing less than God.
Yep. They also made the batteries under the name of Exide, which is the company that still exists.
Okay, Exide?
EXIDE, which stands for Excellent Oxide.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Once again, you were good in the first half there. Lost me in the second half.
Yep.
Anything that ends with "ide" immediately is just no.
Yeah, so the Exide company does still exist, and I'm going to refer to them as Exide from now on because that's easier than saying electrical storage and battery company, and that's also most of what the newspapers referred to them as. They flip-flopped, like, even within the same article. They would say, like, there was a strike at the Exide plant where workers are picketing against electrical storage and battery company.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was probably the first week on the job, Gabe. Give them a break.
Probably.
You don't know what kind of day they had before they went into the office.
I mean, that's true.
You know?
They probably lived like down the street from these plants and were suffering from severe lead poisoning.
They were eating out of this bakery that was right next door.
It was both plants. Like, I don't want to think about all of the horrible things that was going into those bakeries, or coming out of them. Okay, so lead acid batteries are also not the safest thing to make, surprisingly, because you have to melt down and then cast big chunks of lead to make lead diodes, and then you submerge those in some really dangerous acids. So you have both the opportunity for lots of heavy metal dust and then also the opportunity to burn yourself. Now, I don't know how much the workers in the period were aware of the hazards around breathing in like lead fumes.
I'm sure the employers let them know.
Oh, yes.
Right on the first day.
Yeah. Pre-OSHA life was great. Now, they, in somewhere in the early 30s, I couldn't find the exact date as to when this happened, but the workers at that plant, at both plants, organized the Battery Workers Federal Union Local Number 18551, which was affiliated. Okay. Yeah, which that's a long number.
Yeah.
Just calm down there. And they were associated with the American Federation of Labor at the time. Now, by January of 1937, they had a contract with Exide, but that really only set their conditions and hours. It didn't control wages. So that was still being done on like a semi-individual, or basically they were just accepting the company rate. In January of 1937, the union issued a new demand that they wanted a 15-cent an hour raise for all workers except for the office help, who weren't included in the union. Okay. But this was basically everyone working in the plant except for like specific clerical workers in the office. So they wanted the wages to come up from an average of 42 cents to 67 cents an hour.
Okay.
Which would bring your annual wage from $873 to $1,393.60. And at this point, if I remember correctly, the like suggested minimum wage for a family of four was like $1,200 or $1,390. So they were trying to get up to like what the minimum livable wage was supposed to be.
Okay. Yeah. That's
It's
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's the least, it's the least amount.
yeah.
Just enough just enough for your youngest child to survive.
Yeah. Basically just want to like have a roof over your head, food on the table, and occasionally some clothing.
You might get polio, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
A dose. Yeah. Okay.
Honestly, the lead poisoning was going to kill you first anyway. So
they cancel each other out, actually.
Yeah. So unsurprisingly, the company flat out refused to negotiate on wages.
Okay.
Yeah. And the contract that they were currently working on did stipulate that if wages were brought up, it had to go to arbitration.
Mm-hmm.
But the company never brought any mediators forward. So basically they were just like, we're just not going to touch this, and then then the contract doesn't come into play because we have to acknowledge that you're asking for wages for the contract to be enforced. Yeah. So normal shitbaggery.
Yep.
And the union had actually been bringing it up in negotiations for like a couple months at this point. But on December 30th, 1936, that was when the company issued its final no, we're not talking about this.
Okay. And the union took that laying down, right?
Yep. They all shredded their cards and went home. Okay. And it's the end of the story.
Oh, damn.
Over the next few days, the workers prepared and got organized. So they knew they were going to have to fight, and that it wasn't going to be easy. But they had a real interesting new idea about how to fight. Because just a little bit ago in Akron, Ohio, a rubber plant had a strike. And this was one of the first times that the workers went and sat down inside the factory.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
A sit-down strike.
So I couldn't find anything specific because I don't have access to the meeting records for the union, but I think it's a pretty safe bet that the battery workers looked at that and said, hey, that's a good idea. Let's go do that.
Okay.
And we should also point out the rubber workers were associated with the CIO, the Congress of Industrial Organizations.
Yes.
That was pretty much in direct opposition with the AFL, which is who the battery workers were associated with.
Ooh.
And the AFL did not look very positively on the sit-down strike when it happened in Akron, because it was they wanted to basically come in and be the mediators and do it more respectably.
And it's not as good in the posture too,
Yeah.
Stand up strikes are always a lot better.
Yes. You need that good fluid. Upright posture. And
yes.
So on January 4th, 1937, at around 9 a.m., 1,800 workers at both of the Exide plants, so both the one up north and the one on Allegheny Ave, went on strike. And this caught management completely off guard because they knew a strike was coming. They didn't expect a sit-down strike.
Okay.
And 1 second, my cat is demanding to be let in.
Is that what that was? I thought it was the cat using the litter box, but I didn't want to point it out. I don't want to embarrass the poor girl. Anyway, how's the episode going, everybody? You enjoying yourself? I'm enjoying myself. This is a good episode. And Gabe is back.
That is an animal that hates closed doors.
So when did you get the Velociraptor, Gabe?
I've been cloning them for months now.
Oh, damn.
With dino DNA.
Did you spare any expense?
I did not spare any expenses.
Oh, it's so cute.
where okay,
Talking about deadly acid. Get back to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the business owner or the management at Exide had no idea how to handle this.
Yeah.
And
it's like,
just
they're sitting down now, sir.
Yeah.
What?
They're at work, but they're not working. What do we do?
Do we punch them out? Are they on lunch? What is happening?
Yeah. So the Inquirer
Jones, get the pizza. Get the pizza.
The Inquirer interviewed Joseph L. Phillips, who was the plant superintendent at the Adams Ave plant, if I remember correctly. And they asked him, how does the company plan to respond to this? And his answer was, we don't know.
Oh my
God. This is the first sit-down strike in the East, and we're not quite sure what to do about it. We expect to keep steam up and maintain the other services required by our insurance contract. For the present, at least, I suppose, we will permit the men to remain on company property.
Sitting down is like the first thing we did when we evolved out of the water. We sat down.
Yep.
How do they not get this?
Yeah.
They're just not working.
I misspoke earlier. I said there were 100 women. There were 80 women who worked in various manufacturing roles in the plant. So I was also wrong. It wasn't typing pool. They were on the factory floor. Yeah.
2 strikes.
Yeah, I'm bad. So they were allowed to leave at the regular hour. So at presumably 5 o'clock. But all of the men stayed inside and laid out blankets and bedrolls, and basically prepared to be in a siege.
Yeah.
So then at 5:30 p.m., a notice was posted on the company bulletin board that the plant would be closed until further notice.
Okay.
So that was the company's response of just like, we're just not going to open, I guess.
We'll make a Facebook post about it.
Yeah. So the next day was another cold and cloudy January morning. But the gas had been shut down at the 19th and Allegheny plant when the strike started. So there wasn't sufficient heating for over a day at that point.
Damn.
And the workers also hadn't really been able to bring like any heavy or cold weather clothes with them, because they also didn't necessarily know that the plant or the gas was going to be shut off.
That too, yeah.
And like, you can't bring your entire wardrobe to work when you're planning a secret sit-down strike, because if everyone shows up bundled up in like 6 coats, it's a little suspicious.
Yeah.
So a lot of these guys were struggling to stay warm at this point. There was also a pretty limited food supply because the gas being shut off meant that the kitchens were shut off, so they couldn't cook anything.
Yeah.
So that day, 3 men were allowed to be taken out of the plant, 2 for severe colds and 1 just for general fatigue / ill health. Basically, he was malnourished and freezing.
I like general fatigue.
Yeah.
I need to be more generally fatigued in my life.
I think it's a good diagnosis.
Yeah, there's not enough of that.
Yeah. But
extreme cold sounds like a bitch, though.
Yes. That I would not enjoy.
Yeah.
But despite those 3 guys being taken out and being sent to hospital, the mood in the plant itself was apparently quite lively. They were all playing darts, singing, dancing, playing music, and playing cards. Basically just anything to pass the time, because they were stuck in a plant for, at this point, 24 hours.
Well, they can count their frostbites. That'll take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
There's one. There's 1 toe. There's 2 toes.
You got to stack the toes as they fall off.
Oh,
pyramids.
Yeah, okay. Well, you use them to bet, actually.
Oh, there you go.
Because they don't got bankrolls, but they got severed toes.
So on the second day, the families and spouses of all the striking workers marched up to the gates of the plant and started to throw food, heavy winter clothes, blankets, and anything else that had been requested over the fence to the workers inside.
Good.
And this was also an opportunity for family members to like meet each other through the bars and talk, and everybody to see their kids.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, there were a lot of good pictures of like dads picking up their children through the bars. And it was a little surreal, but it was pretty cool. So then the 80 women who worked in the plant, while they weren't staying inside, went over to the Kensington Labor Lyceum and set that up as strike headquarters. And they started to prepare soup, sandwiches, and coffee for all the workers inside.
Tasty spread.
Yeah. So the soup and sandwiches were the two main meals for everyone inside. Apparently, they made a whole bunch of donuts and coffee for breakfast.
Okay.
So normal,
All right.
normal 1930s food.
Classic.
Yeah. Then Charles Goff, who was the president of the local, announced they had established a new negotiating committee, and they were ready and waiting to meet whenever management wanted to actually come and talk to them.
Okay. All right.
Now, other unions in the city started to pay attention, and the United Electrical and Radio Workers organized with the CIO, and those were the guys who went on strike in 1946 at General Electric that we talked about a while ago. So they came out and expressed support for the battery strikers. And then the Battery Workers Union at the Willard Battery Plant in Cleveland also declared solidarity and that said that they would refuse any work that got sent them from the plant in Philly, because they were another... Willard was a subsidiary of Exide.
Oh, okay.
So then on January 7th, M. Herbert Syme, I think,
God damn it.
The mayor's labor mediator, met with the management attorney, Henry S. Drinker.
I called dibs on that one.
Oh, yeah. And then met separately with the union negotiating team. And they were supposed to come up with a plan for everyone to meet together, but no one could decide on a time or a place.
Nice. Good start.
Yep. Then at both of the plants, there were on the 7th, there was a parade at 19th and Allegheny, and then they held a show at the Rising Sun and Adams Ave plant. So they started even this is 3 days into the strike, and they're already like doing some pretty big entertainment stuff.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, day 4 is usually when the baseball game comes out. As is Philadelphia tradition.
So unfortunately it was like cold and rainy. So I don't think any baseball games happened. But on Sunday the 10th, they did hold a block party.
There we go. That's another Philadelphia tradition.
So it was another big visitation day. It was apparently pouring rain, but both the strikers and the folks over at the Labor Lyceum cooked like a huge feast. The 1,200 folks at 19th and Allegheny had hot dogs and sauerkraut. The 600 guys up at Rising Sun and Adams Ave had chicken croquettes. And then both plants had beef for dinner, which they didn't explain how it was cooked. It was just beef.
Yeah, me too, girl. Me too.
Yeah. So a lot of the strikers started joking that they were being, or they were starting to get fat because they were getting fed so well.
Yeah, they get fattened up.
Then some clergy came and gave a sermon at the Rising Sun and Adams Ave plant as well, because it was Sunday. And most importantly, the CIO endorsed the strike and sent a letter stating, "Your well-ordered sit-down strike is a remarkable demonstration of the self-disciplined hour of organized labor. The CIO and the United Electrical and Radio Workers are proud of you. Yours for victory."
That's the way I'm signing off my emails.
So that, within the labor world, that was actually a huge fucking deal. Because the AFL had been... was already worried about the CIO coming and poaching their unions.
Yeah.
So the CIO coming out and endorsing this strike before the AFL pledged any support was not a great look. So William Green, who was the president of the AFL, hadn't provided any support for the sit-down strikers. And by January 13th, so by January 13th, he hadn't provided any support. And the locals strike fund was starting to hit that, and they were a little bit worried about running out of money. So then 10 unions
cut back on the beef.
Yeah. Clearly they were living large here. So so 10 unions in Philly, representing over 60,000 workers, and led by the Battery Workers Federal Union, pledged their support for the Committee for Industrial Organization.
Okay.
Which was another name for the CIO, which, they switched between Congress of Industrial Organizations and the Committee for Industrial Organization. So that was the folks on strike at Exide and 9 other unions in Philly, all coming out in support of the AFL or of the CIO. And that created a new labor council in the city.
Okay.
So they created a CIO council to oppose the AFL council.
Gotcha.
And that had a specific focus just on industrial organizing rather than craft organizing. That council was led by Samuel Otto of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, Fred McCall of the United Electrical and Radio Workers, and Charles Weinstein of the Amalgamated Clothing Workers, and William Leader of AFWA, the American Federation of Full Fashion Hosiery Workers.
The leader of the AFWA.
AFWA. So they pledged to not interfere with any of the AFL's operations, but only organize and support workers that the AFL didn't want to touch. The AFL was still not happy about this, though. But
will they, won't they, of the AFL and the CIO over the years, it's like, get it over with, just kiss. Oh my God.
Well, it's funny you say that, because something happened on the picket line.
Oh.
James Powers of 3047 North 24th Street.
Okay.
And Mary Higgins of 2905 North 23rd Street.
Okay.
Got married on the picket line in front of the Exide plant at 19th and Allegheny. It was actually Mary Higgins who was on strike at the time. So she chose to get married on the picket line.
That is fucking adorable.
There's some really great pictures.
I want to get divorced just to get remarried. I got to go talk to my wife.
Get divorced, go on strike, get married on the picket line. That's how you do it. So they got married right in front of the plant. And there's a great picture of the two of them. He's in a nice dinner jacket. She's in a wedding gown. And then everyone else is fully bundled up, and they look like they've been standing out in the rain for 12 hours because they have. So they look great. Everyone else looks miserable, but still happy for them. The strike continued throughout the most of January. And the Philly, or the lovely winter weather that we get here, that we used to get here, since now it's 70 degrees in winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the 77 and up now club.
Yep. Yeah, it's fun. But they were starting to run out of
That's
supplies.
right. I was getting sick of seasons.
Yeah. We just need like one vague one where every day it could be anywhere between 30 and 80.
Spring, summer.
Yeah. I've been enjoying the like 50 to 60 in the morning and then 85 to 90 by the afternoon.
Yeah, I like having to just shed clothes in the middle of the street. You know what I mean?
It's fun. And humid. The humidity is key.
Oh, it's my favorite. Oh, God. I love just being drenched.
Yeah. Stupid swamp city.
Climate change is a hoax, by the way.
It is. Invented by the Exide company to sell more batteries for Teslas.
I think you're on some.
I think so. All the families were starting to run out of supplies and savings. And even with support from other unions, their strike fund was starting to run dry. Specifically, they were having difficulty feeding both the guys in the factory and all of the families outside. So on the 19th, they started to urge the families of the strikers to apply for relief support from the government because that was a New Deal program. So basically, they were trying to get everyone on food stamps. And the company finally started to figure out that they didn't necessarily have to just tolerate this.
Fuck.
Yeah. So they just started making very public statements that the strikers were trespassing and that they had no right to be there. But in that same statement, they still said that the strike was incredibly well behaved and that there had been little to no damage to company property. So we should also note that this strike started to inspire other sit-down strikes in the textile mills around the city.
Oh, okay.
And we'll probably cover those on a later episode. But by the 20th, the AFL was really pissed. And because they were seeing their control in the city get kind of sapped away. And they released a statement saying that the strike was the result of the influence of alien agitators from outside the union.
All right.
Which would upset the stability and harmony that has heretofore characterized the local labor movement and must inevitably lead to dissension and disunity within our ranks, which must in turn adversely affect the membership of our unions.
No AI could have written that.
No, definitely not. So Louis G. Hines, who is the district organizer for the AFL in Philly, basically claimed that radicals from the CIO had prevented him from being able to sit down and arbitrate with management, which thus prolonged the strike. He left out the fact that the union was no longer affiliated with the AFL, so he didn't have jurisdiction here because he was an organizer with the AFL.
Okay.
So Goff, who is the president of Local 18551, stated that Hines has had plenty of opportunity to help us, but he failed to do anything, and the membership of our union turned against him.
Okay.
So,
that's it. You're done.
Yeah. Then the CIO council, basically in response to all of this, said that they were going to create a $25,000 war chest to support strikes and organizing, and they had now gotten up to 15 unions.
Okay.
So the CIO in Philly was already growing big, and this was 2 weeks.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So finally, by January 30th, they were able to get both parties to sit down and talk. So
there are humans in this company.
Yes.
Good.
Well, there is the attorney.
So my statement is wrong.
Whether or not we consider lawyers to be humans, that's another discussion. But so Drinker met with the bargaining committee from the union and declared that he wouldn't work with them until the sit-down strike was finished.
Okay.
So then the union responded saying that he was basically just like, yeah, we'll figure this out soon. He set out a press release basically being like, he's stonewalling me, but we'll figure it out. On February 11th, so now they've been on strike for a month and 11 days, or a month and 10 days. A meeting took place between Drinker, A.C. Chappell, who was the U.S. Department of Labor mediator.
So many names to keep track of.
M. Herbert Syme, or Syme, I don't know.
Okay.
Basically, federal labor mediator, mayor's labor mediator, and Hine, the AFL district organizer, all met with Exide's attorney without inviting Charles Goff, the union president. So all of these guys met behind Goff's back, and he wasn't even aware that the meeting was going on. Because you don't need any union representation when you're deciding something for a union. So on the 15th, they held a larger meeting, which did include Goff this time, and other representatives from the union bargaining committee.
Oh, God.
Or negotiating committee.
Go ahead, take a drink, Gabe.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll hold them for a minute. Okay. You look very nice tonight.
Thank you. So
do you. What you did with your hair.
No. On the 15th, they finally agreed to negotiate on wages if they stopped the sit-down strike.
Okay.
Yeah. They declared a strike peace, meaning basically it was like an armistice that they got them where they had gotten them to where they wanted them basically to actually negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
And it only then took until the 21st for a deal to be struck. They only won a 5 cent per hour wage increase as opposed to 15. But they also got a 1 week vacation with that. Yeah, the couple could then take a honeymoon after being on strike for most of their newlywed period. So that was the end of the strike. That's not the end of the story.
Oh my God.
Because the AFL
we're gonna follow the newlyweds?
Yes. No, I probably should have looked that up, but
if it was a Sam episode, this whole back half would be about the newlywed couple.
It's true. We're going to talk about a very messy divorce between the Battery Workers Union and the AFL.
Right.
So on March 1st, the Battery Workers and Federal Union Local 18551 voted to officially withdraw from the AFL and then unanimously voted to join the CIO. So then on a meeting on March 15th, 800 workers from that union from 18551 reiterated their intentions to leave the AFL and reform as a union with the United Electrical and Radio Workers in the CIO.
Okay. All right.
In response to that, Louis G. Hines from the AFL said that if they left, they would, or the AFL would hold $8,000 of the union's current funds in escrow in order to establish a new AFL union in the same plants. He basically said, I'm going to steal all of the money that you guys paid.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to form another union to compete with you using those funds. So He then also did the classic technique of red baiting while threatening to steal money from them, claiming that he had a list of 50 communists on the CIO payroll, and that if the workers left the AFL, they would simply be in a dictatorship where your officers would be appointed for you from above.
So this money came from the people that he's supposedly calling supposed communists?
At least 50 of them, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying, then he would have been legally tied to them because he would have got paid off by communists. So that could have turned that around on him.
There you go. Yeah, so Hines was being real shitty. And then after all of this, Local 18551 dissolved and reformed as Local 113 of United Electrical Radio and Machine Workers.
Okay.
So they went back to
I'm sorry. It's just, I love how the numbers are just arbitrary. It's just like, no, it does not matter. When are they going to start doing the Super Bowl and just have XXIVIX?
Honestly, it's not a terrible idea.
We got to start doing that.
I still like that our UFCW local is 1776.
Yeah.
If you're going to pick a random set of numbers, have it be something like meaningful.
I mean, there could have just been 1,775 other unions before them. They just kept rechartering the union 1,776 times.
My God.
Yes, we finally made it.
I hope they did that before COVID so that it wasn't like a 13-hour long Zoom meeting to hold those votes.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Okay, so in August of 1937, the AFL sued the members, or sued now Local 113 for $10,000, saying that they broke multiple AFL bylaws and rules, and that they had requested an advance of $1,500 when they went on strike, despite having $8,000 in their union coffers at the time.
All right.
This was pretty blatantly just retaliation for them leaving. And the AFL just trying to maintain its control. That suit was finally settled out of court to an undisclosed amount in June of 1938. And that settlement also included a counterclaim from Local 113 suing the AFL. But that amount wasn't released either.
Jesus.
Yeah.
When did these episodes become a courtroom drama?
I thought, or reading through all of this, I thought I was done when the strike was over.
Yeah, don't you hate that?
And because I do keyword searches, so I was looking for United Electrical and battery workers and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I saw that shows up in August of 1937 too. And I looked at that and I was like, oh, there's a whole fucking court case around this. And then I had to go pull that thread. Yeah, it was... I thought I was done 3 pages ago, but it kept going. But yeah, that was the first sit-down strike on the East Coast.
Damn, okay.
At least in a major city. There was technically the first sit-down strike was in Schenectady, up in New York in 1906. But this was the first 1930s CIO sit-down strike.
Okay.
And it was fairly successful and then inspired a bunch of other ones. Yeah, so let's all go get married on picket lines.
I like it. I like that part. I like the ending that it turned into a Perry Mason episode. It was just